bringing us a freedom we had never known before they existed. Symbols of the triumph of consumer society. All around the world, automobiles are quietly decaying in their own graveyards. Moss and wild plants serve them as a shroud. Beautiful old car chassis rust away and slowly become one with nature. Some have become a refuge for wild species of all kinds. In the past, it was thought that these wrecks, depolluted and submerged in the barren depths, would create underwater environments where ecosystems could form. Over the last few years, the wind has changed. Car cemeteries are disappearing one after another. It's a shame.
Wow.
These places draw us by the monstrous beauty of the carcasses and the surprising way they are transformed. Enthusiasts, heritage specialists, collectors, artists, photographers, and wreck hunters are all ardent defenders of these sleeping beauties.
It's a whole part of the heritage which is disappearing here in Polizeau, in Champagne, in France. 3/4 of the car wrecks, some very rare, accumulated by Michel, a scrap merchant, are going for scrap.
Well, it's really something, this. Since there were a lot of parts that could have been recovered and which were scrapped, this was really a very big part of my life, to tell the truth. You see, all of this, all of that, was full of cars. Here, there were just front-wheel drives. It was all full. I just kept one old front-wheel drive for the parts because I've got another that's the same. You see, they were lined up one after the other. Well, it's a real shame. Before, you could see it was a 51 because there were terminals on the dashboard, and I see they've been taken. Someone must have got them. Ecologists. This is all to do with the ecologists. If you talk to them about old cars, it's, oh no. They talk about self-driving cars and don't understand there are people who love old cars. They're partly to blame for me going bust, truth be told, by spoiling such a collection. They think that the oil can still leak and so forth and so on. The ecologists had already got rid of it before we got the idea to ask, look, where will the heritage be? The heritage people were angry with me because they wanted to keep the site and the old cars. But it was too late. Even now, when I talk about it, I don't feel good. I get upset. I had this German who came looking for a car because he wanted to take one up to his flat in a tower block. I don't know what floor, but he kept aside one room and he wanted the car to stay the way it was. It's a big job to take a car apart and then put it back together in one room. Many newspaper and magazine articles, as well as books, have recorded Michel Martin's adventure. Thanks to journalist and wreck hunter Jean-Pierre Rossin. Come in. LVA magazine devoted several front covers to him. Look who's back.
Hello.
That's good.
I brought back a souvenir here from the past. There are quite a few. Look, here's another line with all those Peugeot.
Yes, as a rule, we try to put all the same kinds of car together.
And this one here was recovered by the Austrian.
Yes, by the Austrian.
The Austrian who was making a kind of wrecker's yard at his place in Austria.
Yes, that's it. But it wasn't a wrecker's yard. What did he call it? Huh?
Yes, it was an open-air museum.
Yes, an open-air museum. The Austrian, what he wanted was the moss.
Leave the moss there? Is that what he said to you?
That's it.
In the end, it's not so bad then. They can still be saved?
Yes, yes.
Why has all this disappeared? For some ecological pretext? I ask myself. We spend tens, even hundreds of thousands of euros restoring amphora, castles. Why not bring back these pages of history in a museum? Why not recreate part of our industrial heritage so it can be seen and visited?
This is what Klaus Koch, known as the Austrian, is trying to do. It's a 5-horsepower Peugeot.
And it was made in 1919? He's talking 1919, but that might be a bit early. More the start of the 1920s, no? 1920, 21, 5 horsepower?
Yes, in the 1920s. Yes, that Peugeot was a 6-cylinder, 12.6.
12.6.
12.6. First, that's the cylinder head, which should be inside.
Cylinder.
Ah, it's a 6-cylinder.
6.
Cylinder. Oh.
Did you drive it?
Yes, I did. I drove it for 15 years. I'm not a specialist.
I think which is a little bit better. But this is interesting. It's a 6-cylinder. I bought 6 cars 2 years ago, and now the last 3 or 5 cars. And I think it's enough. It's too expensive for me. I'm a private person. It's a hobby.
He's a really unusually keen enthusiast. Klaus has this great project, which is to create a museum with all these cars, which he'll leave just as they are. I find that incredible. If I was as mad as Klaus, I'd do the same thing, but I don't think my wife would let me keep these kind of cars in our garden.
I think it was the last car in Polizo. It's a last car of a long story.
Oh, that's heavy.
After 12 hours on the road, Klaus Koch arrives home at Graz, in Austria, close to the border with Hungary.
Turn, turn, turn. I've done this before. Welcome to Austria, after the long journey from Poliso to Regensburg.
This
is a collection of different vehicles which we've saved from car cemeteries in Europe. This car came from Poliso this year. These 2 cars came from Germany. This old Panhard also came from Poliso. I got it 2 years ago, and the Mercedes was saved in Germany. This is an old 5-horsepower Peugeot from Poliso, which we also saved. We're trying to preserve it as best we can, with its rust and its moss, and so that it looks like a complete car, though of course it'll never drive again.
Klaus places the cars he has saved with his friends and on his own land, which is already almost full.
Over the last 20 years, I've gathered and collected between 70 and 90 wrecks from all over Europe, in very different conditions, covered with moss or in perfect driving order. I've dismounted entire vehicles, and I'd like to open a kind of outdoor museum to display the cars just as they are, as witnesses of an era. There are less and less car cemeteries. Young people inherit them, but they're not interested in old cars, so everything gets scrapped and the witnesses are gone.
Weathering alters the patina of the car bodies. Klaus is amazed at the unexpected shades that are revealed thanks to rain, snow, and wind. With warmth and humidity, mushrooms flourish as if by magic on the old metal. A whole range of animals live and shelter in these old carcasses. One hour from Graz, in a place he keeps secret, Klaus has made an unusual discovery.
I found this marvelous car cemetery about 2 years ago. I'm trying to buy it and save some of the vehicles because I hardly have any room left on my land.
For years, the owner of this wrecker's yard, now deceased, piled up cars in several layers. But in making sure the piles were stable, unfortunately, the roofs of a lot of vehicles were crushed. Walking around the rows, you can find Czech, English, American, German, and even some French cars. Many are from the 1950s, when car chassis had a graphic beauty that has since been unequaled. This rust paradise is a refuge and shelter for many animal species.
This would be the ideal place to create my open-air museum. It would be a dream come true.
Unlike France, Eastern and Central European countries haven't systematically got rid of their wreck cemeteries. Perhaps the French had trouble getting over the loss of their luxury pre-war cars, Bugatti, Delay, Talbot. German cars obtained the high-class label. Although there are many Germans to defend the environment, Germany adopted a radically different approach to its automobile heritage. Michael Froelich, a real character, has opened an original car cemetery museum near Düsseldorf.
I bid you a hearty welcome to my car wrecker's yard. This is where my park of vehicles, my museum, my automobile cemetery starts. You might be interested to know that 1950 was a special year. Economic growth was strong, cars became more powerful and modern, and a new era began for cars in the same year I was born. 1950 really was a very special year.
Michael Froelich has bought and collected a large number of cars from 1950, but he wanted to keep them as they were.
Someone who is 30, 40 or 50 years old has scratches and scars. Sometimes they're ill. And I think that is what nature intended, that you don't have to always be fresh and new, especially since a person has to live, and cars too must live. And for me, a car is especially beautiful when you can see it's been driven, got wet, and been dried, has a scrape or two.
To bring out the wrinkles, Michael Froelich has his own technique.
An unusual sight. I bought this car from someone who had restored it perfectly. But it was too beautiful. Then I had the idea of putting milk and cream cheese on the car to attract birds, so they'd walk and leave droppings on it. And this worked so well that it ended up looking as old as the other cars.
Ja, so alt wie die anderen Autos auch.
I would like nature to take over man's work. I'd like to show that nature, wilderness, is stronger than the work of man.
Natur stärker ist als Menschenwerk.
The wilderness seems to have heard Michael. It is taking over his park.
Okay. This doesn't happen that often. So, the idea was to help the tree to fall on the car, to recognize that nature takes possession of the car by the tree falling on it.
Well, yeah,
This is a Lagonda. In 1950, Lagonda was the most expensive car in England, more expensive than Rolls-Royce or Bentley. It was only made for very rich people.
To finance his car cemetery museum, Michael Froelich sells cars which have belonged to celebrities. One of Hitler's Mercedes. The Cadillac of the Shah of Iran. A car belonging to a Hollywood star.
Viele, viele Leute.
Lots of people get a strange feeling about this. They don't like it. And sometimes they insult me for having abandoned these cars, left them to nature. I understand that we mustn't damage nature, so I removed all pollutants and informed the Environmental Protection Agency. And they've accepted that, which is why the wrecks can stay. Personally, I think there are already enough car museums where you can find beautiful chic cars in an air-conditioned room, ready to be admired. But you have to show their other side as well.
This car is really beautiful of its colors. You see the rustiness in it, but you also see the paint and the green from the forest in it.
Animals and people die as well. They decompose little by little, and it's the same for cars. Some people don't want to see it and think it's degrading. But other people want to discover this.
Michael Froelich isn't wrong. Some weekends, his museum is thronged with visitors and photographers.
This automobile art cemetery, as I call it, is a small contribution to the next generation. I know it's close to being mystical, but there is a certain parallel between our cemeteries and a car cemetery, because the idea is the same.
Doubtless, this is what fascinates such a large public. A car cemetery holds up a mirror to ourselves, reflecting our own development. This Porsche 356 is certainly more fascinating in its decrepit state than when it was insolently glowing and brilliant. Other enthusiasts, like Swiss Stefan Musfeld, have also taken this road. Stefan recently exhibited in Bâle cars found in hangars, like this other Porsche 356.
I've been holding exhibitions for 7 years, 15 exhibitions of cars, and we've always had cars from the hangar. And we realized that when people had the opportunity to see, for example, a 1957 Bugatti, restored or unrestored, most of the time they only looked to the unrestored car, which had more soul. So I said that when I could find enough wrecks to hold an exhibition, I had to do it. It was a real stroke of luck to find this car, which hasn't moved for 45 years. And everything's still there, as if it had just come out of the factory. You can still smell the leather. It would be a shame to restore it, because it wouldn't be worth any more. It's better to keep it like that.
The more damaged the wreck, the more people look at it. It's fascinating.
In den letzten 10 Jahren, auch in Zusammenhang mit der Schliessung von verschiedenen...
Over the last 10 years, with the closure of a lot of car cemeteries, people's attitudes have changed.
Früher hat man so ein Auto restauriert.
Once it was important to shine the chrome. Now the thing to do is find an unrestored car which you can drive and which has kept its soul. That's the thing for a collector. And for a lot of people who visit our exhibitions.
The paradox is that public authorities in many countries are closing a lot of car cemeteries, such as that of Kaudorf in Switzerland. Many 1950s American cars can be seen there, Arands, Simcas, and other European cars made by long since vanished brands.
Unfortunately, it's going to take years before they understand what has been lost when our cemeteries are closed. And the only way to show them to the public is to display them in museums, laying them out as if they were in a cemetery. A few weeks ago, a family came, convinced that this car belonged to their grandfather. Usually I don't sell cars, but for that one, I said to myself that it was better that it went back home. But I hope, too, that they'll keep it in that state, so they can always feel what the car went through during its 80 years of life. Give it a push. I'm really pleased that this car is going back to its old owner. I hope that they won't restore it totally, just so it can drive and so its patina stays as it is.
If a lot of wrecks from Kaudorf have been destroyed, others were saved thanks to an auction.
Für dieses Fahrzeug und ich fange an bei
10,000 francs. 10,000 francs. 11,000 francs.
11.500.
Some of the cars bought at this sale have since been exhibited by Stefan Musfeld.
16.000 Franken zum ersten.
16,000 francs.
16.000 zum zweiten und 16.000
The Kaudorf auction didn't reach high prices, which is the opposite of what happened from the cars from the Bayonne collection hangar. In this auction, rust was sold for the same price as gold.
300,000, now 400,000. Sir says 400,000, 450,000, 480,000. Sold 629,000. These cars were sold at the price of restored cars, completely restored. And that's enormous. But all the same, that's the price of history and of the Sleeping Beauties. 1 million! After a certain price, you can take pleasure in it. Sold.
It has to be said that the Sleeping Beauties from the Bayonne collection have incomparable pedigrees.
This is a model which I think is quite rare because you see we were in the largest car cemetery ever discovered. There were all the great French brands represented. Talbot-Lagoud, Delage, G.E.I.E, even Bugatti, Hispano-Suiza, and all of these cars were built by the greatest car body makers of French automobile history. Puteaux, Sauchic, Chaperon, etc. Only in France, which was the cradle of the automobile industry, could such a collection be found.
Découvrir un tel ensemble.
It's a unique car, which was designed by Sauchic for King Farouk. This really is a high-class automobile.
This is what the car looked like when Mr. Bayonne bought it. This unique collection was brought together thanks to the obstination of Mr. Bayonne and his son, who saved scores of pre-war vehicles from scrapping, each one for virtually nothing. While waiting to be placed in a museum, the cars were stocked in sheds to escape prying eyes.
Most of the cars which have been sold are going to be restored, but I'd say that there are still 40% that will stay like this, presented under glass, so to speak, in museums or collections. We sold a dozen cars in Russia, and the Russian collector absolutely wants to reproduce what he saw at the exhibition. These cars will remain as they are, as an archaeological record. A few years ago, we found a Bugatti which had been recovered from a lake, completely oxidized. It was no more than a skeleton, and the car was bought by an American collector who devoted an entire room to it in his collection, like an archaeological find in a curiosity cabinet. We're just going to slide that back to reveal the magnificent and legendary Bugatti emblem. It's a car which is in relatively good shape because everything has been preserved in an authentic way. You can see the dual ignition on the dashboard, and there is corrosion and rust, but it's surface rust. This is a car which has been sleeping for 65 years and is in a good state of preservation today.
She's being honored. It's magnificent, magnificent. It's just a good feeling, wonderful. Now look at that. This is a photo of our grandfather with his Bugattis. And today, that's why we're here, as a family. Because this is the last Bugatti leaving the family, not without a few emotions. It would be great to keep her just as she is, so she keeps her charm. There isn't a safe big enough for her. She's a treasure, and the only thing we could do was keep her in a hangar.
You'd think that the Bayonne could have got these amounts of money by themselves, but no, in an auction, you can get considerable international buying power. It's a very emotionally charged car, and there are only 10 left in the world. 400,000, that's it. 410,000. 600,000 to 600,000. Ladies, don't cry. 700,000. So, 700,000.
If the Bayonne auction was remarkable for its quality, that of another cemetery, close to Dijon, will surely be the last in France to have so many wrecks up for auction. There have been news stories about several car cemeteries which have had to be cleared out, but our site was the biggest in France and perhaps in Europe. We have 200 vehicles on sale, but you have to realize that to start with, there were 7 times that many. Emotionally, for him, it's very hard. After all, this was his baby, his life. It's not easy to be forced to do this, and in such a short time, with all the work there is to be done.
You get asked to take part in National Heritage Day, and then at the same time, these old cars have got to go. It's sad all the same. You have to try and find some reason to it. We'll all die too one day, and that will be sad too. But that's too bad. That's life. There are people who keep things, who make collections of can openers. Well, we collected cars. I kept hundreds and hundreds of them. At the time, some of them were beautiful. It took up a lot of space, and that's something people don't have anymore. 150 coupe. Quite a rare model. You have to have humidity, trees, and the right conditions to get to this. Nature's a work for us here for the scenery. See that? Isn't it beautiful? Luxury plants in a Mercedes. We wanted to make them grow there so that it wouldn't be taken.
These chassis are mostly those of post-war French family cars. Peugeot, Simca, Renault, and Panhard.
I got the information, and the next day I was here at 2 o'clock. For a wreck hunter, finding such a place, it's just pure magic, because all of these cars have spent 40 years of their life quietly in a forest. Slowly they've been broken down by nature, and there you are. There you are today, and they're all together here. Look how I found these DS just a fortnight ago, asleep in the forest. It really is a dream come true for a wreck hunter to make this kind of find, which of course is becoming more and more rare. Unfortunately, this is the last of them, given that Jean-Pierre, the owner, has to clear the place up through this auction. Let's be completely realistic here. In 10 to 15 years at most, I think what we have here will sadly be completely gone. Oh yes, this is a rare moment too. Trying to sit behind the wheel of a wreck. And here I think it's going to be possible. There we are. It's a bit acrobatic, but completely doable. And there we are. Ah, the comfort of a Citroën. What's great about these wrecks is that there's life. And you can see that there are, on the dashboard, the little mascots of the old owner. And sometimes when you open the glove box, you can find things. The steering wheel, which is still a little cracking noise. There are noises in a wreck, the smell and the noises, lots of sensations. Apparently, the ex-owner put a kind of protective covering over the steering wheel. That's it. Look. Look at this chrome. That's almost as good as new.
There really is a kind of emotion which comes off them, and in some way for most of them, we're going to let them have perhaps a second chance at life. You say this is a Chevrolet?
A Bel Air.
Oh yes, a Bel Air.
From 1950.
HK. We'll have a look at this great Peugeot 202 used by the FFI.
It belonged to the FFI, the French resistance.
Yes, resistance fighters during the war, which explains its marking, which is the original. That's amazing, because this car is unchanged. I'll take the number of this one too.
Hello, hello. Welcome.
This could be redone, no? Yes, this could be redone. It's less damaged anyway. There are people who'll buy a whole lot of cars. They've got the money, and us amateurs miss out, you see.
It's a slightly strange passion, because I love old cars, but I love them in this condition. You have to realize that this kind of site, well, there are still some, of course, but with the pressure of the ecologists and standards, the people who have these places are really forced to hide them away. They're worried that, like elsewhere, what will happen to them is that public services will intervene and say, yes, you have to clear this all up, and so on. Knowing that depolluting such a place costs a fortune and the owner has to pay, so people hide away.
Well, something quite incredible has happened. Someone was looking, and you could see that they were quite emotional. He'd recognized the car his father drove when he was a student. Worried for the moment, but optimistic. Well, in any case, this will be a fine experience. So where shall we start? 500? 500 euros. 4 horsepower petrol. She's from the 26th of May, 1955, starting at 600 euros.
To spend your whole life keeping cars and then from one day to the next to sell them, that's hard.
It was his whole life in the middle of all this. We'll keep it.
Hard to give it all up, but...
You can see it's a museum, and the amount of people here proves it. I think they should all be left like that.
1,000 euros for this historic vehicle. 1,000 euros. We'll start at 800, 500 euros. It's the price of a radiator grille.
There's a lot which will be saved. They'll all regret this later. In 20 years, they'll all regret today.
A beautiful La Ronde, and we're selling it with its cancelled registration papers and the name. 200. 200 the Ronde.
At the least, I'm going to buy one car to save it from scrapping. I'd like to take the Swiss one to redecorate my garden. I like it the way it is. They have to be saved.
This is from 1952, and we're starting at 1,000 euros. 1,300 behind there. 1,400, 1,500, 1,600, 1,700, 1,800, 1,900, 2,000. 2,000 euro. 2,000 once, 2,000 twice. I'm very pleased to sell it to this gentleman who is the son of the ex-owner.
Oh, yes, this is a very big moment.
42 years we've been married.
Yes, and we sold it in 74, 75. There's the motor.
Now you've got your little car to do up.
I've been taking pictures of abandoned cars for 6 years. First big place I found was Châtillon in southern Belgium, a cemetery with 250 cars. The first picture in my book was taken in Bosnas, Sweden, a place with 800 vehicles. 800 vehicles that haven't moved for 50 years. Lots of these places have been destroyed, which means that these records of the automobile industry are vanishing little by little, and there are less and less of them in Europe. I've already been to the USA twice. There I found vast car cemeteries with over 8,000 cars. But these are discoveries which are isolated in the landscape that fascinate me more as a photographer, not as a car lover.
Old Car City in the United States is a paradise for photographers, both amateur and professional. By saving their wreck cemetery, the Lewis family made a valuable investment.
This is the biggest old car graveyard in the world. Every one of these cars, they've got a history behind them. If they could tell you something. I drive all these old junk cars around, the ones that will work, the ones that don't. But this is a 1966 Ford Fairlane. We turned into the Crocodile Dundee car. I intend to stay here until the day I leave this world.
All the staff at Old Car City have rust in their blood and their voices.
My name's Dean Lewis. This is my junkyard. My mother and daddy started auto parts place in 1931, and now we don't sell parts anymore. We do photography. People come from all over the world to do photography and take a lot of pictures of this rust they call patina. Well, I hope it just keeps going, gets to be world known, and people will come and we can pay the taxes. And
yeah, like I said, that's what's nice about digital is you can get.
Go ahead and.
I think Old Car City is a great place to just come and look at the past of America. You know, it was a roaring time when all these cars were part of everyday life.
It's the greatest generation. James Dean, Elvis Presley, Johnny Cash, Marilyn Monroe, and did ride in probably. We have roughly 10,000 visitors a year. People do call it museum all over the world, and that's how it's written up as history now, a museum, nature, all outside. One day, I believe this will be classified as a historic monument, maybe a national landmark of the U.S. because it is so popular and it is so rare.
While they didn't invent the car, Americans quickly realized the artistic and heritage value of wrecks. They're exhibited in contemporary art museums, and creators have used them in monumental works like that of Carhenge.
Carhenge is sort of the 21st century reproduction of Stonehenge. Carhenge is a tongue-in-cheek look at post-industrial America. It takes a fun look at what Americans value as far as freedom and independence status. It's all tied up in a car. So what better thing to use? Well, you have some cars here that are rather unique. We have a 1940s Willys Jeep. We have a 1950s Plymouth. We have some of the newer cars. We have a Vega. We have a couple of Cadillacs. There's just a little bit of everything here.
When Jim Reinders created Carhenge in 1987, the neighbors were scandalized.
They were getting in trouble for having junk cars sitting out here.
The town back then seemed a bit divided.
They're divided on it.
you know, with more of a creative mind would say, oh, it's going to be neat, it's a piece of art. And then there were some that just said it's junk.
There were a lot of citizens that really didn't like Carhenge for a lot of years. They thought it was unsightly, and they didn't want a junkyard representing their town.
The early protests have been forgotten. Carhenge is now a favorite site for Americans.
Artists started noticing it. And instead of it being junk, it became art.
Yes. People started to get a understanding of how many people come to see this particular view of someone's art.
The site attracts 80,000 tourists a year, and in tourist guides it is described as one of the places you have to see before you die. In France, the artist Armand saved from the scrap heap and immortalized 59 automobiles. He placed them one on top of the other in a shroud of 1,600 tons of concrete. Alan Bezos, photographer, was Armand's assistant.
Here, with the passing of time, it's possible to understand better the limits of what Armand wanted to do. He knew very well that concrete eats away at metal, and that with rubber it would be even worse. All that would be left in a few hundred years are the marks left by the cars.
From the start of his career, Armand found inspiration in common consumer products which were dumped at the end of their life.
There, that's coming away. It comes off, and I've taken off part of Armand's sculpture. I'm allowed to do that. But what's great is that will carry on. You can see how it will remain, a sort of strata, an imprint of industrial civilization. And all of these 20th and 21st century things, which will in any case vanish, maybe we'll ask ourselves what they were like as things, what there was inside and why they were made. Perhaps we don't know.
Created in 1980, the work denounces a time of mass consumer society when the car was king.
Here we're in a car cemetery in the suburbs of Paris. Armand chose the vehicles which would go in his monument, put up the first vehicle, installed it in a casing with a roof with holes pierced so that the concrete would fall inside. The motors and the gears had been taken out. The final touches were made to damaged spots, and then the monument was inaugurated. Long-term parking.
In the middle of the rust, spiders and insects already live in the chassis, which are slowly decomposing and one day will leave nothing but imprints behind them in the concrete.
It'll be great for birds here. There'll be lots of nests. Nature will take over. Artists are first and foremost people who ask questions, who can feel and understand things before they happen.
Once I blew a car up with dynamite.
The end of an automobile. Even though he was a fan of cars, he loved cars, but
I was stressed, interested in, and at the same time critical of this whole system and what was known as consumer society. I think that, like any artist, I was aware of this in advance. This whole cycle of production, consumption, and destruction. Production, consumption, and destruction. Production, consumption, and destruction.
You immediately understand Armand's message, which is the accumulation of cars in concrete and the car as nothing less than a symbol of our consumer society. So I think it is something which will remain as a kind of totem of post-industrial society.
The wrecks have fed Armand's work.
Thanks to this material which he discovered with his foundryman, we're within an object that raises a lot of questions, as if this car had spent 2,000 years beneath the sea and has been rediscovered as a witness to a lost civilization.
Those sites which have been preserved are the necropoles of 20th century automobile industry. In the future, these car cemeteries may not just house rusty old wrecks. The economic crises which strike Europe and the USA again and again are condemning thousands of vehicles to become carcasses which will soon decay. The gigantic checkerboards of condemned vehicles are perhaps the first signs of a post-industrial world, where the car will no longer have the same place it has had until now.